In today's lesson, we'll be learning how to move from patterns to algebra with a focus on diagrams. Take a look at the pattern below. Figure 0 contains 1 block, Figure 1 contains 3 blocks, and Figure 2 contains 5 blocks. How many blocks do you think Figure 3 contains? Take a minute to think about this. If you predicted Figure 3 to contain 7 blocks, you would have been correct. Many of you may have noticed a pattern with the figure numbers. The figure numbers are increasing by 1. You may have noticed another pattern with the number of blocks. They're increasing by 2. The pattern that you just noticed is actually called the rate of change. A rate describes how one quantity changes. In this particular situation, the quantity that we're talking about is the number of blocks in relation to another quantity. And again, in this particular situation, this quantity that we're referring to is the figure number. Now, linking this back to the pattern we just saw, there's an increase of 2 blocks for every one figure. Therefore, the rate of change is 2 blocks for every one figure. We'll be talking about this variable of y and x a little bit later. Take a look at the pattern below. Figure 1 contains 3 blocks, Figure 2 contains 5 blocks, and Figure 3 contains 7 blocks. But how many blocks does Figure 0 contain? Take a minute to think about this. If you had predicted Figure 0 to contain 1 block, you would have been correct. Many of you would have noticed the same pattern as before and used it to work backwards to figure out how many blocks are in Figure 0. What you just figured out, which was the number of blocks in Figure 0, is actually the initial value. The initial value is the value of one quantity. In this particular situation, it is the number of blocks when the other quantity has a value of 0. And in this particular situation, this other quantity would have been the figure number. Taking this back to what we predicted earlier, there's going to be 1 block in Figure 0. Therefore, 1 block would be the initial value, and we'll be talking about the variable of y and x in just a minute. This pattern that we just saw can be represented with an equation. Y equals rate of change multiplied by x plus the initial value. We discovered the rate of change to be 2 blocks for every one figure. 2 over 1 is the exact same thing as 2 divided by 1, which is the same thing as just 2. Therefore, the rate of change, you can simplify it to just 2. Furthermore, we discovered the initial value to be 1 block. Therefore, we can just write the number 1 as the initial value. I did mention we'd be talking about the variables of y and x. Y in this particular situation represents the number of blocks, and x in this particular situation represents the figure number. Therefore, this pattern can be represented with the equation y equals 2x plus 1.